Welcome to the Jillian Greyse Show, the podcast that doesn't just inform, it transforms. I'm Jillian Greyse, frequency architect, multi-dimensional strategist, and your guide through the unseen layers of reality. Each episode is a living transmission, crafted to rewrite your patterns, recalibrate your field, and activate the truth encoded in your DNA. We'll navigate the energetic architecture behind relationships, trauma, intuition, purpose, and power, and close with a guided activation to embed the shift into your system. This isn't self-help, it's subconscious reprogramming. This isn't coaching, it's timeline engineering. This isn't content, it's a frequency shift. And if you're done with surface level advice, if you're craving depth, data, and divine disruption, if you're ready to stop performing and start embodying, you're exactly where you need to be. My name is Jillian Greyse, and I'll see you there. Before we drop in, a quick note on the name shift. This podcast began as Rewrite Reality with Jillian Greyse, but then others started launching copycat shows under a similar name, trying to capitalize on my framework, my voice, and my intellectual property, and I decided to make the pivot. Not out of fear, but out of precision. Because when your signal's that strong, people will try to replicate it. But this frequency can't be faked, and this blueprint can't be borrowed. Moving forward, this transmission will be called The Jillian Greyse Show, because my name isn't just a label. It's a signature, it's a signal, and it's a claim of power in the space that we helped architect. Same content, same power, same knowledge, but now it's unmistakably ours. Welcome to the original transmission, the one that started it, the one that leads it. Now let's drop in. Hello, and welcome to this episode of The Jillian Greyse Show. On this episode, we are going to talk about why you are looking around and seeing so many people snap, so many people being angry, so many things shifting, so many people shutting down, and why you yourself may be feeling like an emotional basket case that is constantly spinning. We're going to decode the reasons why that's occurring throughout the collective. And I'm going to give you, as I always do at the end of every episode, a guided talk down to help anchor in some of these things so you can stop feeling so out of control and start to gain power in your own life. Before we get started, though, I wanted to encourage all of you to take a moment to take a peek at my new newsletter. I have been doing a newsletter for several years now, and I recently decided to change some of the content to be a lot more in line with everything that people are asking about. This new newsletter is going to be an once-a-week transmission to every single one of you that is going to give you the energy weather report. It's going to give you the framework of the week, so things that you can do, different beliefs that you can pay attention to throughout the week to make sure that they're shifting out, a ritual of the week, some micro shifting exercises, much like we do at the end of each of our sessions, and also some hand-selected knowledge of articles that are going to be giving you information and helping you to take this transition to the new level. Now, I decided to make some changes to this newsletter in light of everything that's shifting right now on this planet. We all need more. We need more resources to explain to us what's happening. We need more awareness to know what to do in order to help ourselves move through this. And we're not going to get this from the public forums. We aren't going to get this from things that are outside of us. We have to learn to take a lot of these new things that are happening and own them so that we can become our own personal guide. For me, it's so important to teach all of you how to function with this frequency so that we can all end up in a better situation in the end, because the collective energy helps everything shift. And this newsletter is designed to do just that. So take a peek at the link in this podcast, and you can always go to jilliangreyse.com, and at the top option buttons, you will see newsletter. Just click on that and it'll take you right over to the newsletter sign up. Okay, that being said, you're someone out there who has been crying out of nowhere, snapping at people, feeling like you're super forgetful or almost like you're out of body. And what I mean by that, and I'm getting a lot of reports of this, is you're going through the motions of life, but you're not actually present in those motions. All of that is a awareness of your own frequency, so your own actual body and your own actual soul, being aware of the global reset that's happening right now. And this is huge. It is something that we have been working towards for a long period of time, Many of us just feel this subtle feeling like something big is about to happen. And I don't think there's anyone out there that can take a look at how life was 10 years ago versus how life is today and not be shocked at how much has changed. How much has changed technologically, how much has changed as far as our structures of government, as far as the way the medical industry is handling things, as far as the way our education system is shifting. So many things are shifting so fast that people are really struggling to keep ahead of it. And those shifts, it's important to understand, are natural parts of what is designed to be taking place right now. And I want to speak out on a lot of the things that I see on social media that are talking about there being some kind of catastrophic situation that's occurring where, we're all going into this deep state control. And the people, of course, that are in the religious sectors that are talking about how the rapture is coming. And every single thing out there that is discussing these catastrophic events that were going to be occurring in the climate and the world is going to be ending. We're not going to get that lucky. And I say that with a lot of humor connected to it because our objective here as we're growing and as we're expanding, not only as humans on this planet, but as souls that are moving through our evolutionary process, is to change, is to adapt, is to shift. And to want to not take control of your frequency, like I teach all of you to be able to do, to refuse to architect the way you believe that your life should be going and to become that creator within. That is a decision that a lot of our practices in the past or the things that we placed our faith in, they're designed to make sure that we don't figure out we can do that. I want to give a little more layers to that. We have set up structures within our life, within this time period on earth, that purposefully prevent us from knowing our true strength and our true abilities. And those structures are the exact ones that you're seeing that are shifting so rapidly and are falling apart and are beginning to become extremely transparent. Like everyone is looking at them going, you have to be kidding me. This doesn't even make sense anymore. Those structures are the same ones that have held us away from knowing that we are the architects of our own destiny. They have held us away from or given us information that would be on the contrary to us understanding our inner strength. They called for us to place our inner belief in them. And once you do that, everybody, once you take your belief and you take your power and you put it into something or someone else, you weaken the frequency that you hold because you're taking your inner creator, your inner creation, that inner being, that frequency that brings you to life, and you are giving it to an outside source. When you do that, you weaken your inner source. So we're at a point where people are tired of weakening their inner source. And there's too much information out there now that we all are being able to gain an understanding of our own inner power. And when we made that decision and when we as a collective started to reach those points, what happened was everyone began to shift their frequency. So we're going to step back for a moment. Now I'm going to explain to you what I've explained to people for a very long time. Our bodies have a Hertz frequency. This is scientific. So if you were to take a Hertz frequency counter and you were to place it in your energy field and you were to see the number that came forward, everybody has a different frequency. Every body has a different frequency. And the lower the frequency is, can indicate a lower amount of energy running through you. So sometimes you'll have a lower frequency if you're angry, if you're sick, if you're in a bad mood, if you're hateful. Those things will lower your natural frequency. And when you lower your natural frequency, you're more susceptible to lower vibrating things happening to you. So you're going to be more susceptible to having negative events occur in your life, to having issues with yourself, to be financially stable. A whole slew of things come with lower different frequencies. And what I always try to teach all of you to do is how do we get your frequency as high as it can be? Now imagine all of us, everybody on this planet, in a relatively short period of time, since we've gained so much ability to have access to more and more knowledge, started to raise our frequencies. We started to choose different things. We started to say, you know what, I'm going to be less hateful. Or I never thought that these people that we're supposed to be disliking were actually okay on the inside. We want more. We want to have more happiness in our lives, more peace on this earth, more love shared to one another, different schedules, different lifestyles. We all started wanting the same thing at once. When you do that, you change the frequency of what is called the collective. Before we continue, let's take a breath. You're here for a reason, not by accident, not by coincidence, but through divine orchestration, and these words were meant for you. This is your moment to rewrite humanity. Think of one soul in your life who needs this transmission and send them this podcast episode now. There are so many out there who are silently struggling. Our role is to reach them, to ignite something ancient and true. Whether it's someone you love, someone lost in the noise, or someone ready to remember who they are, this is your chance. Because vibrational awareness doesn't just shift minds, it realigns lifelines. It reawakens paths. It reconnects souls to their original blueprint. Be the bearer of that light. It isn't just generous, it's sacred work. Share this, speak it, seed it. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement, and you're a vital part of it. Let's rewrite humanity together, one frequency, one soul, one remembrance at a time. Now we continue. So there's a lot of really interesting science around the collective frequencies. And there's a lot of quantum physics understanding around what happens when groups go into a certain frequency. They change the radiation of the whole. So when groups of thinking or groups of individuals start to focus towards one goal or one emotion, it helps the others that are not in that emotion to also begin to feel it and step into it. And that's where we're at the precipice of. We're at the precipice of so much within the collective. What we want is different from what the outer world is providing. So there has to be this disparity of things breaking down. That's what we're seeing occur right now. So it's not the rapture. The world isn't going to fall apart. We're not waiting for a natural disaster that's going to kill all of us. That's not the point. The point is we're shifting. And with everything new that comes forward, no matter what it is, something has to die. So if you decide one day that you no longer want to feel like a victim and you want to feel empowered, then making the choice to feel empowered actually makes it so the frequency of being a victim within you has to die. And when something dies out, it always makes waves as it's leaving. So even that part of you that when you no longer want to be a victim and you choose that you want to be empowered, you will go through struggles of that victim part of you just really roaring up to the surface, really coming into light. And as you recognize it more and more, and if you can continue to not follow it, you'll continue to take the vital energy from it until it dies out. And that's what we're all in the middle of doing across the entire world. It's huge and far greater than you could ever imagine. So the collective are dealing with this as well. So that means that you have so many people on so many different continents and so many different walks of life that are feeling these sudden irritability, emotional spikes. They're done. They're done with the way things are. They're done with their job. They're done with their obligations. They're done with their relationships. They're going through brain fog, time distortion, memory glitches, where you just feel like, okay, I don't know how the whole day passed. Or maybe you're in a day and you have no idea why it's going so slowly. We're craving more sleep. We're also craving more isolation. We don't want to be around large groups of people. We don't want to be in big situations. We want to have more internal time. There's a heightened sense of intuition that's coming up, vivid dreams. There's a sense of you can't go back to who you were, but you don't quite know who you're going to be or what you want to become. So there's almost this feeling of being lost. All of that is very healthy and very normal for what's happening on this earth right now. Because remember what I just said, when you are dying, there's pieces of you that are dying that once had your energy, that once had your attention. You are going to feel them as they shift out because new is being born, but the old doesn't want to leave. So we've got to go through that on every single level. And that's what we're experiencing throughout the entire collective. So you're seeing people be at their worst and at their best all at the same time. The reason for that is as these things shift and people start to feel these shifts, what they are going to do and what they have been doing is I've decided I want to make a change. I want to be different. But then when you make that change, the old part has to die. So the part of you that was angry or judgmental or was egotistical, that part starts to flare up very strongly. And before you know it, you are almost walking down this road of those parts of you that you did not want to give too much energy to. You actually were consciously thinking, I no longer want to be this way. They start to take over again. And the reason for that is because they're leaving, they're dissipating. So they're going to roar up to the surface. And the best way you can handle that is by not walking into it, by not letting it pull you in, by being aware. You're going to hear me say so often, awareness is key. So if you can say, okay, this part of me that's very jealous or very controlling is surfacing, and then when it surfaces, you can recognize it and say, I see you. I know you're there. And then you can give it a different activity. Then before you know it, you start dominating your field. You start being the creative source that you once were looking outside of you to give you answers for. You start to step in to the power that's within you. And what I mean by that is when those emotions start to surface, recognizing them and saying, instead of going down this road, I am going to do some deep breathing, or I am going to step back and do some journaling, or I am going to become aware of this, and I am going to take a moment to do a quick micro meditation, a quick micro recentering, the things that we talk about. That will then make it so as that emotion continues to rise, you'll eventually create a new pattern where instead of it bringing up jealousy, it's going to bring up the feeling of the activity that you fed it. So what I mean by that is what will eventually start to happen is as that jealousy or as that control piece of you starts to rise to the surface, after you've done meditation, after you've done things to help sort of redirect it, then as that emotion starts to begin, that very early on vibrational Hertz frequency shift that happens within your field, instead of it acting out into a full emotional situation, it's going to bypass and go towards the new pathway that you showed it. So when you're jealous or you feel like you want to control something, eventually what will start to happen after you create a new pattern is that frequency will then cause a release, a relaxation for you, which will counteract it. And that's when a frequency starts to die completely. These are all energetic detox symptoms when you feel this way. When you have all of that energy that's rising within you and you know it's the old energy, it's detoxing out of you. So it's important to be able to label it for what it is. And it's also important to realize that the brain fog and the time distortion and the wanting to sleep more and the heightened intuition and the shakiness and the feeling of being done and the irritability and the emotional spikes, those are all detox symptoms of what we are letting go of as a collective and how it's manifesting to each one of us. Because every single one of us has aspects of those energies or those emotions that also need to be released. So the key here is going to be awareness and redirection. And we're going to talk about that in the guided talk down. I'm going to give you a redirection guided talk down that's going to help you to redirect as any of those emotional spikes hit. Now, also, where all of this starts to explode even further is with a lot of the cosmic weather that I chat about on any of my social medias and my YouTube channel, and also on my newsletter. When we have any kind of cosmic event that takes place, I was well aware that those events also heighten the lower vibrational frequencies within an individual. So if somebody was prone to anxiety, then they were going to get extremely anxious during one of these events. If someone was prone to depression, they were going to get very depressed during one of these events. If someone was prone to addiction, they were going to want to act out on their addiction during one of these events. I noticed this early on by default, actually. It was not something I was looking for. I just had an awareness of solar weather, and I would notice that I would get hundreds of text messages and hundreds of emails on days when the solar weather would shift. So I found this on my own, through my own practice for over the past 2 decades, and how human behavior would react. So when we have those shifts in those spikes, when we have spikes in solar flares, when we have Schumann resonance fluctuations, when we have geomagnetic storms, when we have certain planetary alignments, as crazy as that sounds, there's almost this compression effect that happens with the human energy field. And when that energy gets compressed, people start to feel it and they start to react. When the planet's frequency spikes, anything in your field that's out of alignment gets pushed to the surface. And that's another reason why people are snapping and shutting down. Our system in and of itself is recalibrating. If you're someone who has any interest or pays any attention to space weather, you're aware that there's been a large amount of influxes, and that's because the frequency of our whole planet is changing. And if the frequency of the ground we stand on is changing, and it's a result of our frequency changing, then we're of course going to feel the changes. And that can be difficult for people to, and I think it's less difficult now than it used to be. 10 years ago when I would talk about those being shifts, it would be more of a conversation where I was asking somebody, hear me out on this, and then do your own observation. And throughout that, there was not anyone that did their own observations when these shifts would happen that didn't notice, oh my God, I really am feeling this, or okay, I'm anxious on this day. And it is the exact day that you sent out that newsletter or that I saw that post. So they started to correlate that on their own. And I think that's the greatest part of learning is when you actually come to the realization on your own. And that's so important to me. That's why I try to teach so much. So I want to encourage all of you to pay attention to those things. Pay attention to those space weather. Again, it's something I release on my newsletter. It's something that if you follow me on Instagram, you follow me on Facebook, you follow me on YouTube, you're going to get that up-to-date information when we do go through those influxes, because it's so important to me that I let everyone know. But on the level of understanding what we're discussing in this podcast, I want you to also have a realization that those spikes are the shifts that we're all feeling, that emotional change, that huge something's coming that all of us are currently in the middle of feeling internally, but don't know how it's going to play out. We don't know what it is. That's what's happening. It's our actual field of energy that's changing along with us changing. And within that, we're having a lot of identity shedding. So we're in the middle of the identity shedding phase, so I would call it. We're dissolving old roles. We are releasing different relationships that don't serve us. We're changing our values. We are realizing the desires of what we want resurfacing, and our boundaries are strengthening. And you're not snapping at people and feeling the way you are because you're unstable. You're snapping because your soul is refusing to tolerate what your old self normalized. And I want you to sit with that for a moment. So relationships that weren't positive for you, things that you knew weren't healthy, those things are surfacing. And the old self that normalized those things is now saying, this isn't okay. I can't be working all day long and come home and be exhausted and never see my family and allow this to continue. This doesn't make sense anymore. And that understanding is forcing a shift. And the more of us that awaken to that shift, the more we're going to expand and the more we're going to be able to be prepared for everything that's going on. Because right now we're in the middle of a reboot. And that's what all of this is prepping us for. We're in the middle of a reboot for the collective rise in intuition. We're shifting towards more authenticity. There is a return to embodying the truth. And there is a new era of energetic sensitivity that is rising. And all of you are feeling it. And all of you know it. And that's what's happening. So this is actually a beautiful thing that's taking place among the collective. And those of you who are right in the hotbed of it, that are trying to do things so that you feel less and are trying to make excuses by saying, okay, I don't know what's going on with me. Maybe I'm having some mental health issues, and of course, if you really are at that point where you are in extreme emotional turmoil, I'm always going to tell you to make sure that you reach out to the proper outlets of people that can help assist you to move through things. But I want you to also understand so deeply that what we're experiencing right now is not something that anyone in history has experienced before. Maybe in other histories, like if you're someone who studies Lemuria, you're someone who's into like ancient cultures or ancient civilizations like the Mayans, or even further than that into the Atlantis era. maybe in those civilizations, they experienced this point where there was this huge shift. But when you're going through the things that you're going through, I want you to understand it's something that the world has not seen as we know it. So therefore, a lot of the advice that you seek, the old patterns of what used to help people through these old things, it's not going to work because it's not known what's happening. People who are in that mental health field, they handle everything clinically. They don't understand the shift that's also going on internally from a spiritual aspect, from our inner being of what we are. So those old ways of fixing it are not going to work. And the new ways of fixing it are right now being born. You're seeing leaders step out all over the place that are giving people the understanding of this and are helping people to step into this next era. And for me, that's a huge part of what I do. When you're having these crises, what would normally work through talk therapy is not going to work anymore, everybody. In case anyone hasn't noticed, it hasn't worked in decades. If it worked, people wouldn't be in it for decades. It's only working on one aspect of yourself. It's only working on the human brain when you're going through things like talk therapy and you're taking the advice of the counselors. And I just want to take a moment to kind of rage bait out there this one. The counselors out there who are taking people who have emotional traumas and then implanting memories. And I've seen this happen way too often. I've had people that have worked with me after they've worked with a counselor who has told them that they were abused as a child, and the person has no recollection of it. They just carry the quote unquote emotional characteristics of it. That should be illegal. Those people should be prosecuted. That is a horrific crime against humanity, as far as I'm concerned, because you're not helping somebody by creating fake memories or making fake assumptions based on what a book told you. And I see that way too often. And what you're going to find in fields such as those is they're not making the progress to help people the way that they're trying to act like they are, because those old things don't work. If you want to help yourself through the shift, it's going to be about awareness. It's going to be about knowing the frequencies when they come in, being aware when they hit you, what they're going to manifest like, how you're going to feel, being able to catch them when they do, having the tools necessary to redirect them, and by stepping into your own. Because no matter what, whether you want to or not, whether you're comfortable with it, whether you're welcome to it, you're in it. That's what's happening on this planet, and that's what we're here to do. So if your feet are on this ground and you are walking around day to day, you have an obligation to understand yourself from a deeper level and to step into this truth that's unfolding and birthing right in front of us. And that is something that I'm so passionate about doing. And I think I say this every single podcast, or at least every third podcast, where I just want so much for each one of you to recognize and know your inner power. And that's my goal. And I will do anything I can on any platform possible to get that goal out there, because as we expand, the world expands. And as one of us wake up, the rest of us get the opportunity to share in that frequency. And that's so important to me. So you're not going crazy. You are not experiencing time in a very strange way where you're feeling lost. You are not having huge emotional outbursts that are out of control due to some kind of chemical imbalance. 90% of the time, that's not the case. Actually, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, that's not the case. You're not in an unfortunate situation where you're watching your whole life fall apart and there is no reason for it. You are stepping into your authenticity. You're stepping into your creation. You're stepping into your truth. And as we continue down this road, as each year passes and as each day goes by, I am always going to be here to guide all of you, to show you how to get to that destination as easily and calmly and empowered as I possibly can. Okay, that being said, we are going to roll into our guided transmission, and I'm going to encourage all of you, use this transmission to rewrite those patterns. So if you're having like a major freak out day, or you're having this insane anger come up, or you're having this insane control come through, all of those things are rising to the surface because they're looking for a new leader. They're looking for a new redirection. You're no longer feeding them.
So they're rushing to the top because they're starving. They aren't coming to this top because they are who you are and who you're supposed to be and what you actually feel like. They need direction. So it's your job to step into that creation piece and show them the direction. And this transmission, just doing it just quickly when those things rise, is going to start to create a new pattern, which is then going to cause new frequencies to arise within you, new neurons to be connected, and ultimately lead to a new you.
Take a slow, deep breath in and let your shoulders drop as you exhale. Let your body know it's safe to soften. It's safe to release. It's safe to recalibrate. Now close your eyes or soften your gaze and bring awareness to the space just behind your heart in your chest. Not the physical heart, the energetic one. This is the place where your truth lives. Imagine a soft, warm light beginning to glow there. It doesn't push, it doesn't demand, it simply rises. Like a sunrise inside your chest. With every breath, feel that light expanding. Up to your throat, down to your belly, across your shoulders, into your spine. This is your system rebooting. This is the energy within you remembering itself. If you've been impatient, angry, shutting down, or feeling overwhelmed, just let that light move towards those places inside of you, whatever it is. You're not fixing them, you're acknowledging them. Whisper inwardly, I'm allowed to change. I'm allowed to outgrow. I'm allowed to reboot. Feel the nervous system loosen its grip. Feel the old emotions dissolving. Feel the pressure leaving your chest, your jaw, and your mind. Now imagine the light inside you sinking with the rhythm of the earth beneath you. Steady, ancient, and supportive. Let your breath fall into that rhythm. Inhale, I rise. Exhale, I release. Inhale, I recalibrate. Exhale, I return to myself. Let the light settle now, not dimming, just integrating, becoming a part of your baseline frequency. And when you're ready, place one hand over your heart and one hand over your belly. Feel the warmth of your own presence radiating up through your palm. Say silently or out loud, I'm not breaking down, I'm breaking open. Take one final deep breath and gently open your eyes. You are here. You are updated. You are aligned, and you are the creator. Thank you so much for taking the time out today to expand with me and to receive this transmission. As always, I drop a new episode Tuesdays at 5 a.m. And if you're feeling generous, please take a moment to review this podcast and share it with anyone that you can help expand. My name is Jillian Greyse, and I'll chat with you next week. Thank you for listening to The Jillian Greyse Show. You've just experienced a frequency shift. Don't let it fade. If this episode moved something in you, share it. Send it to someone who's ready to remember who they are. And if you're called to go deeper, subscribe, leave a review, and stay tuned because this is just the beginning. I'm Jillian Greyse, and this is more than a show. It's a signal, it's a recalibration, and it's a return to your original blueprint. Until next time, stay aligned, stay awake, and keep architecting the reality that remembers you.